The Morning Drive is sponsored by Power Metallic. To find out more about the company, please visit their website at powermetallic.com. Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.
Nolan,
Hey, Carl.
we're in the car now.
We
man.
are.
Yeah. It's funny because, like I said, when I was walking by and I saw Atlas, and I thought, well, you know what? I would love to know more about the company because I did have some old colleagues that did some work for you guys. So, salt,
Yeah.
the value proposition. You know what? Let's get to know you a little bit, Nolan.
Sure.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Nunavut, actually.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know that. And yeah, I spent the first 17 years of my life growing up there. Went to elementary school and high school.
Sure.
And then I graduated and I went to Vancouver to go to UBC. And I lived in Vancouver for 15 years, then Toronto for 5 years, and then moved back to Vancouver. So I'm a northerner at heart.
What's your favorite place you've lived?
I would say, this is going to make a lot of people upset, but Toronto, actually.
Yeah?
I think I like
the action?
I like the excitement. I don't necessarily go out and take part in, the clubs or the shows or the theater activities or the arts, but I just like knowing that it's going on around. And Vancouver has that stuff as well, but
Different, but Toronto's a different vibe.
definitely. And Vancouver, we got so much more family there, and
Yeah.
love the skiing and outdoor activities.
Did you go to a baseball game yet?
Yeah, I went to Game 7 in Toronto for the, I guess, ALCS. I mean, I'm just like most people, just suddenly became a big Blue Jays fan recently. That was very exciting. That was the most exciting, probably, sporting event I've ever been to in person. But yeah.
I was there too, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my Meta glasses on, same ones I had on when I came over and said hello to you.
Mhm.
And that video's got 14,000 views, man. So what was it like for you when George Springer hit that home run?
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, again, the last game I'd been to for baseball was actually at the Sky Dome. I think Roger Clemens threw his 4,000th or 5,000th strike or something or strikeout or something like that.
And he got a standing O?
Yeah, and then I was very young at the time. And then to be there, jumping up and down with people that you'd never met before and just cheering. And yeah, and before he hit that home run, it was kind of, the
People get worried.
It was somber. Yeah, we thought it was over. And they gave us another great series in the World Series, one for the ages. And, they'll get him next year, right?
Where were you sitting?
Very, very far up in the 500 area, right? There was literally nobody behind us, but the view was pretty good still. So
Yeah, well, you were in the building, man.
and the atmosphere is everything anyway.
Yeah. I paid $250 for general admission tickets.
Yeah.
So we had to get to the gate like half an hour before the gate opened at 5:30. And then when we got in, we had to run and we went to the WestJet flight deck.
Okay.
So it was and I was with a bunch of other 40-year-olds.
And that's where you're like pushing people to get to the front or
No,
something.
not quite, because we were there early, but it was just kind of funny because it's a bunch of middle-aged people, and I
Yeah.
had my Meta glasses and I documented the whole thing.
Yeah.
So even from when I was like scanning us in to a bunch of people running. One of my friends went up the ramp the wrong way. I'm like, "Where are you going?" We
Yeah.
had a game plan, man. So what's your background?
Yeah, so I am an engineer. I spent, I graduated UBC in engineering in 2006. I spent the first parts of my career in consulting in the mining industry. I was a process metallurgical engineer. So I did a lot of mine design or process plant design, but I really got into project management and working with the clients and feasibility studies and scoping studies. And then I was tapped on the shoulder to do a lot of site work. So I ended up going to site, taking part in builds, the Diavik Diamond Mine underground expansion, part of the owner's team there, for example. And then I decided to move into the owner's side directly, and I worked for New Gold. And there I spent a year and a half building the New Afton mine as part of the construction commissioning team. And then I was involved in the Rainy River project, the Blackwater project. Rainy River went into construction. During this time, actually, I picked up an MBA and a CFA as well. Didn't stop working. I just continued, did all that on the side, and then started to really move into, finance, corporate finance, accounting, budgeting, planning, strategy, capital markets. And then I moved to TMAC Resources. I was involved in transitioning the Hope Bay mine from construction and commissioning into operations. And then I found myself tapped to be executive management at first a copper junior mining company, and then now Atlas Salt. So yeah, pretty broad background, but what I like to take pride in is that as an engineer, fundamentally I like to see things being built and advanced and move forward, and it's not just about the money, right?
Well, I'm going to ask you a very obvious question.
Sure.
Because anybody who's new and going to look at the Atlas Salt chart, they're going to be wondering the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very genuine question to ask, and hopefully, you're comfortable answering it.
Sure.
What happened?
Well, I wasn't there, as you know. I joined the company in June of this year, so 2025. And yeah, in 2019, the company kind of had what I would call its market debut. That's when, a company just decides to get serious about marketing itself and the things it's done in the stock market. You can be publicly traded, and people don't give you much attention before that. So they came out with a blast, said, we got a salt project here. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to have a lot of interest. And they put some marketing dollars behind that. And then COVID happened. And so the stock ran from 5 cents to over $4 at one point, which is a tremendous gain for anybody, right? And so you would expect people at that point to start to take some money off the table, right? They've
Sure.
gained, right? And so then what happened is the company got into the phase where all junior mining resource companies go into. It's like, okay, well, now we have to think about the next step. What do we have to do? The Lassonde curve, exactly, right? So you have to start thinking about development. You have to start thinking about permits and all these activities. But the stock had grown so fast, so quickly, it got ahead of itself that I think there was a mismatch between the investors who were in, which is primarily retail that drove it to those highs from COVID investors, and from the institutions who will ultimately be investing in a company like that and building a mine like that. And so the stock retraced. The previous management team didn't do enough, in my opinion, to defend the share price, did a tremendous amount of work advancing the project. So we have a feasibility study completed at the time. We've just completed an updated one a month ago. An environmental assessment was received, and all of this, unfortunately, the market really wasn't made aware of. And so I joined in June once I had seen all the tremendous fundamental value that had been created in the company, and I said, you know what, with my experience, I can continue to advance the agenda of the company, but I can also do what I think is a good job of making sure that the market is aware of that as well.
Well, there is a really high-end video that my old colleagues did actually for Atlas Salt, and I mean the management would have been highlighted in there, so that might not be relevant anymore. But the quality of the content showing the, your project, it was really nice. It should be out there floating around, and I highly suggest people look at it. Again, nice piece of content. But you're here and you weren't there for that video, so really appreciate you, letting us gaining some insights into who you are and your background.
Yeah.
The value proposition, as far as why an investor maybe should put salt in their portfolio.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about the economics of salt. So this is a fascinating one for me.
Yeah. Well, there's always two aspects to this, right? There's the share price, and does an investor see an opportunity for share price appreciation? And then there's the fundamental valuation, and how the share price relates to what the company should be worth or could be worth, based on feasibility studies or the market conditions. I would say that for an investor to look at this stock, and this is again why I joined it, is there was a very large mismatch between the market's understanding of salt as a commodity and the value intrinsic into it, and how it's reflected in the share price. And I think it comes from a lack of knowledge, or at least a lack of awareness in the general market. So the value opportunity is salt. There's not a lot of salt companies out there to invest in. There's one major public company publicly traded salt company, but there's no other junior developers that are aiming to produce salt like we are. And when you look at why that's the case, is because when you look at what we have a very good salt deposit amenable for development. So it's shallow, high grade, homogeneous, thick, and the shallowness is key. It allows us to make a mine and develop a mine in a timely manner compared to other salt potential developments, and operate it at a low cost and develop it at a lower cost as well. And we're close to infrastructure, including a port that will allow us to supply our markets. And we're, just to be clear about the markets, the de-icing road salt market. So in the Northeast US, Eastern Canada, it's selling to governments, cities, municipalities, and ultimately people. So that demand for that commodity is stable and not volatile like other resource investment plays. Yeah, so we have a updated feasibility study, which we just put out. The economics became even better than the original feasibility study. And now it's, okay, let's see what the share price is as a reflection of that. Is there a match there? And if you look at how we compare to other resource sector companies at the same level of development, again, construction ready, environmental assessment completed, feasibility study, financed as well. We can start construction immediately. We're going to start some construction activities, early works activities. Most of those companies are worth a lot more than we are today as it relates to the feasibility number.
Where can I follow the price of salt? Is it like a boron where you can't, it trades off market?
Yeah, it trades. Most of the pricing for salt is done in sales to municipalities, right? So they put out tenders and bids every year, and then salt distributors or producers or a mix of any of those groups, they bid on those prices, and then ultimately those prices are made public. Now we've engaged marketing firms or marketability firms to compile pricing models for us that go into our studies. But the average investor, unfortunately, cannot look at that.
You know what would be a great idea? It would be a great static graphic. Would be like a visual, Visual Capitalist?
Yeah.
They put out some really nice stuff.
That's actually good. Maybe I'll talk to them.
Yeah, because if they did something on behalf of, or in conjunction with you about the price of salt, they just, it's so visually appealing whenever they put something out. I love reading it.
But the interesting thing is actually, once you know what the price of salt is and you kind of get comfortable with that, once you know that it's not going to change. It's going to go up slightly, a few percent every year, but it's not going to be having wild swings. So you don't really actually even need to look at the index.
It's just stable.
It's very stable.
Yeah,
right?
it'd just be nice to see like a 20, 30-year chart that shows that.
Yeah,
it basically probably just goes up with inflation.
Absolutely. A little bit outpaces inflation actually, but yeah, definitely. Okay. It tracks it for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I guess the biggest, question mark behind the company is how is permitting and financing to build it?
I would say permitting, not even really. Again, the environmental assessment was the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle on any project, I would say, on the permitting side in Canada is the EA. Once that's been completed and we're released, what that does is it tells us the instructions basically on how to get all the permits we need. And so then you just go through meeting the criteria to submit and then receive your permit. And that includes doing detailed design and engineering, which we're going to be starting. And we already have early works permits. So we have full community support, we have Indigenous support, we have government support. Everyone in Newfoundland has been very supportive of the project. It's a pride and joy type of project, I think. Ultimately, when it'll be built, it's something that everybody can be very proud of. But you're right, financing is the last big component. And so I would say it's a big component, as it would be for any project, but ultimately raising money is actually one of the least challenging things because there's a lot of money out there. You just have to find the right people, the right investors. And remember, that's what we're starting again, basically for the first time since I've joined, and it's been very successful so far.
So with this, what type of financing would you be looking for? Like a debt financing, or what type of loan, what type of partnership?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, when you look at a traditional resource sector play like gold or silver, which again, 20 years in the gold industry prior to Atlas Salt, they don't always have debt as a possibility, but we do on our project. So we're working with a debt lender broker out of London called Endeavour Financial, and they have a lot of experience in the resource sector, and they are putting together a package that could supply over 60% of our financing needs from debt. And we're talking about senior secured lenders at low interest rates, not, well, low is, it's all relative, but we're talking sovereign wealth funds, export development credit agencies, major infrastructure banks. They see this project as like investing in a hospital or an airport or a subway.
Because they understand that business.
Well, they understand that the demand is always going to be there because you're selling to citizens, you're selling to governments and people and municipalities. And you don't have that pricing volatility, right? You're not risking funding a gold project only for the first 5 years, the critical first 5 years we're all familiar with, where the gold prices crashed and that project will never make money, may never pay back its debt. That will never happen to a salt deposit like ours.
Well, it's an interesting story. I'm not surprised by a debt financing. That kind of makes sense. So from here, what would you say is the number one thing that an investor needs to pay attention to? What's the one hook, line, and sinker that they should be like, you know what, I really need to, make a decision on this if I want to add salt into my portfolio?
I would say, look at your portfolio and say, do I have enough diversification in there, right? I'm not saying sell all your gold stocks, right? But I would imagine most people who are in the resource sector and are interested in it, heavily weighted to gold, heavily weighted to silver and other commodities. And is there the possibility for price appreciation that you would expect with a story like ours where awareness grows? And then look to see if we're doing a good job of messaging the story, doing a good job of ensuring that the market is aware of what we're doing, and are we meeting our objectives and the things that we've set out to do. And I think that if you look at that and you are comfortable with that and you like what you see, then certainly it would be a very good story to invest in.
Well, I'm glad you did the morning drive with me because this has been a fantastic and insightful one.
Yeah.
I'll drop you back off at the conference, and I know you got a presentation. You got to go be productive, and that's good for shareholders. But maybe we'll catch up with you another time, or maybe we'll catch up with you on an X Space or a morning drive. I don't know. But best of luck with the company.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.